William Seward.
Secretary Stanton.
I'm still Edwin to you. Just because you've secured me a new office doesn't mean that has to change.
Congratulations, you old coot.
Oh, this is for you. It's a pie.
A pie?
Apple. No, cherry. Actually, I don't remember which.
You made me a pie.
No, Mrs. Stanton did. I commissioned it, though, as a way of saying thank you. I wouldn't have this office if it weren't for your favorable recommendation to President Lincoln.
That is unusually kind.
And how are the children? Is young Fanny well?
What do you want?
Pardon?
In all the years we've known each other, you've never once asked about my children, much less made me a pie. What do you want, friend?
Where are we on the issue of arming captured slaves?
So that's what you want.
Nowhere, then.
If we arm captured slaves, the border states will turn their back on us. And without their support, we cannot win the war.
Our numbers are dwindling. We need more troops.
Don't forget, this subject is the reason Mr. Cameron, your predecessor, was asked to resign. The president has made his views on this issue abundantly clear.
The only thing abundantly clear about the president's views on this issue is that he has no spine.
It's your first day. Don't make enemies so soon. In politics, more friends are better than none.
I have no friends.
I'm your friend.
My only one. I don't know how I ended up saddled with you, irritating man that you are. You want me to stay away from arming captured slaves? Fine, but I want something in return. I had Major Eckert conduct a survey of our current military inventory. The majority of our supplies come from our friends in Europe, as you know. Clothing, arms, medicine, and the like.
Yes, that's correct.
Those items should be manufactured and purchased here on American soil, not overseas.
No.
I only need your approval.
No.
Sign this. It's a statement of support.
I don't have to remind you, I don't think, of the thin line we're walking here, domestically and abroad. France and England watch our every move. I'm doing everything I can to negotiate a lasting alliance, spitting in the face of our allies on a divisive issue. It will not help the president's cause.
Neither will losing the war. We are flat broke, William. I cannot win a war without money. Let's put our factories back to work. The flow of gold abroad will pour back into our economy, and northern industry will be ignited from this depression.
This initiative will exasperate our friends across the pond.
Not as much as it will exasperate our enemies below the Potomac.
Lincoln will never agree to it.
If you support me, he will.
I don't know.
Do you want me to take arming slaves off the table or not? Is that the sound of capitulation?
I'm signing this, supporting you in an effort that might anger England and France, because I don't want you anywhere near the issue of arming slaves. Not one word about that subject from you or your office. Do you understand?
Yes. Do you need a pen?
You're a very difficult man to be friends with. Do you know that, Edwin?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Major Eckert!
Yes, sir.
Close the door behind you.
What can I do for you, sir?
Grab a pen and paper. Take this down.
Of course.
To General Hunter from the Office of the War Department. Message. General, you are hereby ordered to proceed with the arming of captured slaves. Sincerely, Edwin M. Stanton, Secretary of War.
(1865).
Mr. Stanton?
Mr. Bell.
Are you all right, sir?
Where is Secretary Seward?
Upstairs. Would you like a glass of water?
No, I'm fine. I need a moment alone with him.
Of course, sir, but
Turn away any and all guests till I'm gone.
He is already entertaining guests, sir. President Johnson and Secretary Wells are with him now.
Excuse me, Mr. Bell.
Fat shitted bedlam, banging his head on the iron door of his cell, screaming, "I'm mad! I'm mad! I'm mad!
Mr. President, Mr. Wells,
Mars?
Mr. Stanton.
I did not expect to find you two here.
Yet here we are.
Am I interrupting?
No. Seward here was just regaling us with the harrowing tale of his attack. Hell of a story. Seward tells me you were with him, Stanton, just moments before Payne knocked on the door.
Yes, sir.
You're lucky you left when you did. You being there might have given that fella a more favorable target.
Do you mean his beard or his belly?
Damn good to have you back, Seward. Damn good indeed.
Secretary Wells was just filling me in on the details of President Johnson's amnesty proposal.
Is that right?
Yes, I've not read it yet, of course. I'm still not feeling entirely myself.
Well, after what you endured, who could blame you?
Mr. President, I'm surprised this proposal is being discussed at all, especially given the nature of our last conversation.
Yes, well...
Mr. Seward needs time to recover, gentlemen. Let's not thrust him into the middle of a contentious debate so soon.
It's fine, Edwin, I'm fine. I sent for the president directly.
Did you?
Yes.
I'm only here to pay my respects.
Yet you brought along your amnesty proposal.
I'm afraid I'm the culprit here, Mr. Stanton. It was my suggestion. The President humored me.
After everything Mr. Seward's been through, he's earned a chance to make his views known.
I appreciate that, Mr. President.
If I recall, Mr. Stanton, that is precisely what we discussed in our private conference last.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
Mr. Seward, are you all right?
Yes, I am.
Shall I send for a man downstairs?
No need. I'm just a little overwhelmed, is all. Gentlemen, if you don't mind.
Of course, you need your rest.
Your speedy recovery is what matters most.
We'll get out of your hair.
Gentlemen, shall we?
Edwin,
Yes?
stay.
Of course.
Take care of yourself, Seward.
Glad to see those eyes open again.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm mad. What a fruitcake.
You, my friend, look terrible.
So do you.
How you feeling?
Better.
Your family?
It's a difficult time.
When will you return to your duties?
Soon enough.
You're being very taciturn.
I'm always very taciturn. You're the one who doesn't know when to keep his mouth closed.
You sent for the president.
I did.
You should have sent for me first.
Because you're worried about me? Or you're worried what I might say?
I am worried what you might say.
You should be. People find out you denied Lincoln's security, it'll ruin you. Not to mention the work you're doing on Reconstruction.
William, if I had any idea what was going to happen that night, I'd never...
No, I don't blame you. I blame John Wilkes Booth.
Yes. But this investigation is about more than Booth.
Indeed. I heard about your military tribunal. Do you really think now is the best time to be suspending civil liberties?
The president signed off on the tribunal.
Did you leave him a choice? Or did you discover some means of forcing his hand?
Why don't you ask him?
You're right, Edwin. This trial is about more than John Wilkes Booth. You're litigating the future of this country. If the facts don't play in your favor...
They will.
But if they don't, tread lightly.
Telegram, May 7th, 1865. From the Executive Chamber, Washington City. The persons implicated in the murder of the late President Abraham Lincoln and the attempted assassination of the Honorable William H. Seward, Secretary of State, are subject to the jurisdiction of and lawfully triable before a military commission. President Andrew Johnson.
Congressman Bingham.
Well. If it isn't Little Stanton.
Little Stanton?
Everyone calls him that back home.
Not anymore, they don't.
I'd love to hear the story behind that.
Look at him, Major. The story lies in his proportions. He's as short and disagreeable today as he was when I first met him back in Ohio. On the debate stage, he had to stand on a stool so that his head might be seen over the podium.
That's as false as the spurious passage you quoted from the Constitution in our first debate.
You're one to lecture me on the Constitution. After you yourself intentionally skipped a passage to bolster your argument.
You've been peddling that lie about me for 20 years. I beat you on the merits of my disputation, and that's the end of it.
You'll never own up to what you did, will you, Little Stanton?
Should I excuse myself?
Yes!
I'll take my leave, Mr. Secretary.
I never thought I'd see the day when a Whig and a Democrat would sit down in solidarity behind the legacy of a Republican. These are strange times we live in.
Baffling, even. Yet here we are.
Here we are indeed.
Well, I'd like to go first, if that's all right by you.
It's fine, provided you don't skip anything too important.
Thank you for agreeing to support my Reconstruction plan. I appreciate your loyalty.
I'm here out of loyalty to Senator Hale, not you.
I know the absence of the Negro vote in the Freedmen's Bill is a bitter pill to swallow for you and the rest of the party.
Incremental progress is better than none at all. The radical Republicans understand this.
Then I hope you'll understand we have more immediate problems than Negro suffrage. Johnson wants to give the South amnesty.
That would kill Lincoln's Reconstruction plan.
Yes, and it's the freedmen who will suffer most. If Johnson pardons the South, the War Department will be forced to take back the lands we've given to the freedmen and return them to the plantation owners.
Not to mention, if the southern states were readmitted to the Union, we'd lose all power to override Johnson's veto. He can block Negro suffrage.
Yes, which is why we have to block his efforts.
There's no legislative solution I can offer you, Stanton. Congress is in recess.
Which means you have plenty of free time on your hands.
Free time for what?
Lincoln appointed you judge advocate of the Union Army years back, did he not?
Yes, and I told him he was out of his mind. I knew nothing about military law at the time.
At the time, yes, but what about now?
Well, my wife says I'm a quick study.
I want you to prosecute my military tribunal, Mr. Bingham. With John Wilkes Booth dead, our only hope of proving the Southern conspiracy lies with this tribunal. You'll be working alongside Judge Advocate Holt, but you'll be my eyes and ears inside the courtroom. If we prove Jefferson Davis and the Confederate leadership are responsible for the murder of Abraham Lincoln, the path to amnesty will be blocked. Johnson won't be able to pardon the South.
Not without making himself a traitor.
Or an accomplice.
This is all assuming you can prove it. And assuming I'm willing to help you.
I skipped the line, Bingham, in our debate. It hurt my argument, so I skipped over it so as not to weaken my thesis.
You're finally admitting to cheating after all these years.
I am admitting that you are a better lawyer than me. Will you help me?
All right, Little Stanton. I'll prosecute your trial.
Telegram, May 8th, 1865. Mr. President, I remain eager to get back to the business of the state. I look forward to our meeting this afternoon and deeply appreciate your accommodating my condition by bringing the cabinet to my home. Secretary of State, William Seward.
We've talked this issue to death, Stanton. Mr. President, I believe it is high time we resolve the issue of amnesty once and for all so we can move on to more important issues.
Those lands belong to the Freedmen's Bureau.
That's tantamount to saying they belong to you.
Promises have been made, Mr. Wells. Promises must be kept.
Secretary Seward, what is your opinion?
Well, I've reviewed the amnesty proposal.
And?
It's an excellent compromise, Mr. President.
William.
It's time to reunite the country, Edwin. Amnesty is the best path forward.
Amnesty is the best path. Are you out of your mind?
Let me finish, Edwin. I've also finished reviewing the evidence Mr. Stanton has compiled. It gave me pause, Mr. President.
Well, I'd like to hear the evidence.
So would I.
Edwin?
After we put the Negroes into the fight, the rebels began to see the writing on the wall. They didn't have the strength to best us on the field of battle, so they took the fight to another front.
Clandestine warfare, Mr. President.
Clandestine warfare?
Yes, sir. Last February, Jefferson Davis and the Confederate Congress established $1 million fund to bankroll the CSS, the Confederate Secret Service, a spy ring operating out of Canada.
What in tarnation does Canada have to do with this?
The Union has no jurisdiction over Canadian banks, sir.
Confederate money flows in and out undetected.
Mr. President, The CSS launched multiple incursions over the last year and a half, most notably the raid at St. Albans. They started the fires in New York during the elections last fall. They even tried to assassinate President Lincoln with pestilence by infecting blankets with smallpox.
Christ almighty.
You knew these attacks were taking place?
Of course we knew.
How?
Our agents penetrated the CSS. As a result, we were able to thwart a majority of their plots.
This was a known secret in certain circles of President Lincoln's administration. Mr. Lincoln himself was aware of the CSS's activities.
Yet no one in the cabinet chose to inform me, the Navy Secretary.
Certain circles, as Mr. Seward said. For obvious reasons, we felt secrecy was paramount.
Tell them the rest, Edwin.
Well, these operations all follow the same pattern. Money from the Confederate Fund is deposited into Canadian banks. CSS agents withdraw the money in Canada and cross the border from the north. The attacks of April 14th are no different. We have a letter that proves Booth met regularly with contacts in the Confederate government. We also know Mr. Booth made multiple trips to Canada in the weeks leading up to the attack. That's to say nothing of Booth's conspirators. Johnny Seward, whom we believe is the architect of Booth's operations, is a known CSS operative. Lewis Payne Powell, the man who attacked Secretary Seward, is a former Confederate soldier and a suspected CSS agent. Additionally, a Canadian bank book in Mr. Booth's name was found in the hotel room of a man named George Atzerodt.
The German fella? The one who was meant to kill me?
Yes, Mr. President.
If the true depth of this conspiracy is unearthed to the public, you cannot pardon Jefferson Davis or his cabinet. You cannot pardon the Confederate generals who presided over the bloody insurgency. And you cannot pardon the wealthy plantation owners who funded this insidious rebellion.
Mr. Seward, it must be said the President's executive order does not guarantee amnesty to any of the classes of individuals you just mentioned.
Yes, Mr. Wells, which is why I am inclined towards the compromise. However, politically, I believe it is prudent we wait for the tribunal to conclude before announcing anything publicly. Once we've seen the full facts, we can reevaluate our position.
Mr. Stanton?
I defer to Secretary Seward. I trust his judgment.
Mr. Wells?
I have no objections. Only one caveat. President Johnson should select the tribunal jurors to avoid the perception of bias. I suggest an even split of Republicans to Democrats.
An excellent suggestion, Mr. Wells.
All right then, Seward. It seems your druthers are my ruthers. We wait for the tribunal before moving forward. Come, Mr. Wells. Let's leave Seward to his rest.
Of course, sir. Good luck with your tribunal, Mr. Stanton.
This is a mistake.
I'm giving you a chance to prove your conspiracy. If you're successful, you'll have my support.
And if I'm not?
Johnson's amnesty order is a reasonable path to peace.
You sound like Gideon Wells.
It's a good compromise, Edwin. I won't needlessly throw away everything we've done over one issue.
This is the reason for everything we've done. This is the reason President Lincoln is buried in the ground.
Or is it because you denied him security?
If it didn't happen that night at the fort, it would have happened somewhere else.
You may be right.
Then what do you want from me?
I want you to stop this subterfuge.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Detaining of innocents? Suspension of civil liberties? A military occupation of the South? What term would you prefer I use? On your first day in office, you made me a promise.
Oh, for God's sake.
And the very next thing you did is stab me in the back.
Lest you forget, William, arming captured slaves is what turned the tide of the war.
Yes, but it wasn't enough, was it? Neither was emancipation. You had to push Lincoln on citizenship, too. And when he heeded your advice, when he spoke the words in public for the first time, the people thanked him with a bullet to the back of the head. There's a cost to your change, Stanton. After everything, if you don't realize that by now, I fear for what will become of you.
There's something you need to know about President Johnson.
Stop.
About who he was with the night of the assassination.
I said stop. Whatever he's done, it doesn't matter now. He is the president. His success is our country's success. You want to preserve Lincoln's legacy? Then help me unite our people. Lest you forget, you're not the only one with a secret to tell, Edwin. And you're not the only one who doesn't want people to know what he was doing the night of the assassination.
I don't like being threatened.
Yes, you only like threats when you're the one making them.
What would you have me do?
Prove your conspiracy, but do it the right way, with integrity.
All right.
Do I have your word?
I said all right.
Look me in the eyes. Do I have your word?
Yes.
Now that's another promise you've made me. See that you don't break this one.
Telegram, May 8th, 1865. The trial of the conspirators will be commenced before a military commission on May 9th, and if the same facts are brought out that have been disclosed in the preliminary examinations, the magnitude of the plot will astonish the whole country. There is no doubt if Jefferson Davis's last act was the murder of the president, it will fix very accurately the place which the rebellion will occupy in history. Edwin M. Stanton, Secretary of War.
How's the case coming along, Mr. Bingham?
That's actually why I'm here. I finished a preliminary review of the evidence.
And?
I have my doubts. There's quite a bit of conflicting testimony. The biggest challenge, as far as I see it, is making the tribunal jurors understand the complexities of Confederate clandestine operations. And that's to say nothing of the particulars of John Wilkes Booth and his team of shadowy figures. It's a tall order, Stanton.
Mr. Bingham, it is critical we prove the Southern conspiracy.
I understand.
Which means, for the avoidance of doubt, we need guilty verdicts for Booth's conspirators across the board.
That's not all we need. In addition to guilty verdicts, we need to draw a direct line from John Wilkes Booth to Jefferson Davis and the CSS. Like I said, it's a tall order.
President Johnson wants a list of tribunal jurors by the end of the day. Now, I would like your input.
Pick friendly jurors. That's my input.
Of course. But I was thinking I want you to select them.
I'm the prosecuting attorney. You want me to handpick the jury?
Yes, I do.
Isn't Johnson going to have an opinion on the subject?
Yes, he'll want the members of the jury to be impartial, which is a euphemism for Democrat. Now, for obvious reasons, we cannot let that happen.
He's going to reject the list, Stanton.
I don't think so. But if he does, it won't matter.
Why not?
Because before I give it to him, I'm going to leak it to the press. If he tries to interfere or force me to add more Democrats, it'll look like he's politicizing the tribunal.
Aren't you concerned this is a bit unethical?
Unethical, Mr. Bingham. If you want to win, sometimes you have to stack the deck.
Or skip a line in a public debate.
Now I beat you, don't forget.
You won the debate, but your candidate, Van Buren, lost the election.
That's because Van Buren didn't have you in his corner. Now deliver me the list, Mr. Bingham.
When Lincoln floated you as a replacement for Cameron, he came to me. I suppose because you and I had both come up at the same time in Ohio. He wanted to know what kind of a man you were.
Mm-hmm. What did you tell him?
I told him I didn't care for you.
Well, the feeling was mutual. At the time, I mean.
I also told him you were the sort of man who knew how to get things done. And that above all, even though I didn't always agree with you, I believed you were a patriot. Years later, Lincoln attributed your hiring to my counsel. He thanked me, because he said he couldn't have survived the war without you.
Bingham, are you trying to take credit for my work?
No, but I am taking credit for putting you where you are today. Don't make me regret it.
Mars?
President Lincoln.
Just spoken to Major Eckert. He relayed to me your message.
Did he?
Yes. He says you disagree with my recommendation for a military strategy.
Vehemently disagree?
He also says that you told him to tell me that I am a damned fool. Though, he wouldn't repeat the words out loud. He had to write them down on a scrap of paper and hand it to me.
Mr. Lincoln.
Am I a damn fool, Mars?
No, sir.
Well, that's a relief.
But if you proceed with this course of action, there will be strong evidence to the contrary.
As I told the Major, when it comes to matters of governing, Mr. Stanton is nearly always right, and generally the sort of man who says what he means.
Thank you, sir.
Though I have my doubts this time around. I believe a change to our current strategy is in order.
Mr. President.
So I would like you to write down your thoughts on the matter.
Sir?
To help me understand your position.
When would you like me to deliver the report?
Now?
Now, sir.
Yes. I'll wait.
Yes, Mr. President.
By the way, Mark, may I speak while you're writing? Will it distract you?
Oh, that's fine, sir.
I want you to know I've given some thought to our conversation last.
What conversation?
We were talking about you sitting on the Supreme Court. You are the rock upon which the waves of this conflict are beating. I honestly do not know how you are not crushed beneath their weight. I can think of no man more deserving of the honor of a lifetime appointment than you, Mr. Stanton, and so, after the war, when the time comes, I'll be nominating you.
I don't know what to say.
Thank you will suffice.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I know it's been a life stream of yours.
Yes, sir.
But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing this for one reason and one reason only, because you've earned it. Now, when you finish with that report, wad up that piece of paper and please deposit it in the nearest wastebasket.
Sir?
Then order the generals to proceed with my strategy as I instructed you to do.
What was the point of me writing it?
Oh, I always feel better after I've written out my thoughts. Vented my frustrations a bit. I hope you will too. Send the order, Mr. Stanton.
Right away.
Take care, Mars. You are very important to me and this country.
I will not disappoint you, sir.
I know you won't.
1865 is an Airship production, starring Jeremy Schwartz as Edwin Stanton, also featuring Ian Ferguson, Sean Hannigan, Ace Anderson, R. Bruce Elliott, J. Michael Tatum, Robert McCullum, and Lindsey Graham. Created by Stephen Walters and Eric Archilla. Directed by Robert McCullum. Written by Stephen Walters. Executive producer Lindsey Graham. Co-executive producers Eric Archilla, Robert McCullum, and Stephen Walters. Music and sound design by Lindsey Graham. To find out more about 1865, go to 1865podcast.com or find us on Facebook and Twitter at 1865podcast. And if you're a fan of the show, please consider supporting us. Become a patron at patreon.com/1865podcast. New episodes air weekly, and look for special Inside the Episode interviews with the writers and producers of the series to find out more about the real history behind 1865.